Hey guys, Tommy Carrigan here with Tommy Untamed. Thanks for tuning in. We got an awesome guest today. You're going to enjoy it. As you were just telling me, yeah, I tell you what I tell all the guests. They're like, what are we talking about today? I'm like, I have no idea. And I just kind of just throw
We're
the
just
paper
gonna
airplane and they're like, well, what's
we're
going to
just gonna
happen?
jump in.
I'm like, I don't
We're
know.
just gonna jump.
It might work
Hey,
really well. It might explode. I don't know.
yeah, speaking of airplane, that chart over my shoulder right there is a chart of, because I used to be a pilot, and that's a chart of all that Chicago airspace and
Yeah.
Indianapolis airspace in one chart. So that's kind of a back in the day, love to fly. Um, so where are we going
Yeah.
with this conversation? Man, it's like having a clean whiteboard with nothing on it, and where do you start?
Well, I think that I legitimately think that's the best way to go. I taught myself graphic design for several years after college, and I stopped trying to like decide what it was I was making and instead just lean in and go with it. And I think a lot of people conflate the two with if you don't know exactly what you're doing, then you're being lazy or not taking it seriously. And I say people think that. I think that. I was pre-med in college. I was a 4.0 student. And I've found with the podcast and with graphic design is that's not the like I still so if I say I have no notes for the show and I don't know where it's going, you go, oh well, that's so you don't even try. And it's like no. Always get 8 hours of sleep the night before. You go to the gym beforehand, so that fully wakes me up. I make sure that I'm always well read on current events as well as books, so I always got things to talk about. You show up with a good, you show up on time, you put on a clean shirt, you comb your hair, you turn your phone off. You show up completely ready. You're showing up full of energy with a bunch of markers that are full of ink. And yes, it is a blank slate, but just because it's a blank slate and you don't have a pathway doesn't mean that you're apathetic or you don't care about it. It's rather you show up completely. It's like an EMT. You show up with everything because you don't know what you're
Yeah.
answering. And I think that's how I would describe this is like
Well,
we
I
don't have a
think the
path, but it's
the fun of that, Tommy, is being a creative person. You're creative with your graphic art stuff. I'm creative with I'm equal left brain, right brain. You can see the musical keyboard over my
uh,
shoulder and a bookcase, and behind that door is a closet full. I mean, it's a great big library. It's not a closet, it's a library. So being well read, I believe this is my personal belief that the secret of life, really, the secret of life is to always maintain a spirit of curiosity
mm-hmm,
and to go to bed tonight knowing something that I didn't know the day before.
correct.
Okay. So I wish that I had more time. I used to be very accomplished on that 88 keys behind me, but it's not like riding a bike. you you get rusty, and I want to get back to it. But the thing that, like you said, the open whiteboard. I'll just start with this: that I feel that there is a era of almost an awakening that's coming to America and perhaps the world. That we lived in this dark, in my opinion, we lived in this dark, suppressive world for at least 4 years, maybe up to 16 years of dark, depressive, where people's creativity was tamped down and people's freedom of expression. And man, during COVID time, where we couldn't even show our face, we had to walk around like this and try to talk like this, and that whole time of stifling, tamping down, and putting restraints on our physical freedom, our creative freedom, our ability to say what we want to say and be who we want to be. I feel like those days are getting to be behind us. They're not all the way behind us now, but I feel like the light is starting to shine a little bit in the area of freedom. Um, so now you're not, you just gave me a thoughtful look. Wonder what all that means. So I'll follow up with this and say that I'm looking over at my other computer over the top of my camera, and I see where they're just now they're saying that the all those auto pen pardons that were done by Biden the last couple of days of his office, that he didn't know about it, that it was done by the chief of staff who gave approval for the auto pen pardons. So that means, if that is really true, that all of those pardons that was issued the last day or the next to last day, I think it was over 1,000 pardons, don't they don't hold. They will not hold up. And so, to me, Tommy, that's an example of the light that I'm talking about. The light of truth and the light of freedom that is starting to penetrate the darkness that we have lived in. And I can speak to that same subject in the world of finance because that's my background. I can speak to the same subject in the world of media, which is my current gig. My current world is media and also finance also. But just that's kind of an opening comment here, just to say that I feel like light and freedom is starting to penetrate back into the darkness that I feel we have lived under, the height of which the darkness, the dark of the darkest of the dark was COVID time, including it was during that time that my dad passed away. They said it was COVID, but it wasn't really COVID, but not put another one up to their score sheet that they said it was COVID. And I had my one of my closest uncles and many people died during COVID that was part of this dark, dark time that the world lived through. You're sitting there not responding. I'd
No, I'm
love to
listening.
hear
No, I'm
your
listening.
comments. What do you think?
It kind of makes me think of, it's actually a quote I didn't see till like a couple weeks ago. I think it's Sun Tzu, and it was opportunities multiply as they are seized. And I think that's kind of poignant because when I first started doing podcasts in 2019, 2020, and then I started getting strikes on YouTube, it was for interviewing, the inventor of the mRNA vaccine or top cardiologist or blah blah blah. And as those would get squashed, I would try to go and upload it on Instagram or something else, and then those would get squashed, and then you try to do it on Facebook, and those would get squashed, Twitter, Reddit, and it was just one by one. It was just a decline into censorship. It was a self-feeding whirlpool, down and down and down. And I honestly didn't really think it was going to end. I was like, oh, this is just, I'm alive when the country slides into a communist dictatorship. And I was like, well, it sucks. I'm not too psyched about that, but kind of just made peace with God. And I was like, this is probably how it ends. It's going to start with COVID. It's going to continue. I don't know how Trump survived the assassination attempt, and I don't know how he got back in, but you can see the inverse now. You can see just now, if you, and it was for years, but if you go now on YouTube and you find any video that has the word COVID or coronavirus in the title, they no longer have that blue banner under it that says click on here. I know that because, well, I've been banned for several years, but that
Mhm.
used to be on everything, even a comedian bit. It would be
Yeah,
there. Elon buying Twitter, in terms of, so the inverse now is, instead of the spiral down, now it's the spiral up. It's the, as opportunities are seized, they multiply. And as you can start to share things on Twitter, censorship only kind of works if it's wall to wall. Because if there's any
yeah,
opening, it's like it's like hermetically sealing like a nuclear reactor. It's like you can't seal 99% of it. If anything gets out, then it gets out. I would agree with you that we're on that sort of opening back up as it spirals more and more. So it's like Elon buys Elon, even just forget if you like him or dislike him or whatever. If you just look at what he did, he bought this thing and then people were allowed to talk about whatever. Just from a profit motive, you have things like Facebook or Instagram that are now like, there's now no value to us censoring this stuff because now that's just traffic we're not getting. So now you have the
Right,
profit motive of they're like, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg had a change of heart. I think he just looked at it and he's like, well, I'm not going to leave money on the table. And it kind of spirals back upward. So I would agree with you entirely. It's you can't tamp down one thing and then not expect that to bleed into all, because you would see it 2020, 2021, 2022. You'd even see things like video game streamers on YouTube where they'd be like, can we say that? I don't want to get banned. I don't want to get removed. that
yeah,
that puts a dampening on everything,
right.
and it does lead to undeniable darkness. And you can say, oh well, it's around COVID. It spirals out of control to where we have now accepted censorship as allowable. Doesn't matter what the censorship is for. Once you have accepted it as allowable, then the dominoes don't stop. It just keeps going and always just it just accelerates to nothingness. And I think that's we're seeing the opposite of that now. It's as they start to be uncensored, these things just open up at an accelerating rate and they start feeding into one another, and it's a bad example, but it's almost like, when you see a building collapsing. If it collapses one floor, then it's going to collapse all of them. Because if the building can't hold the weight above it, it definitely can't hold the weight above it plus free fall. So if
Right.
momentum is force times acceleration. If you can't hold 10 pounds, then you definitely can't hold 10 pounds if I toss it to you. And if you can't hold one floor falling, you can't hold two. And if you can't hold two, you obviously can't hold. It's kind of the opposite of that, of where
And, that's exactly now we are sticking with that analogy. We're building the building
back
back
up.
up. Okay. Yeah. It has collapsed. It has been dark. People have died. And it's been dark and ugly. But, part of why our company, Communication Unites Everyone, that company, communicate, I'll say it again slower. Communication starts with the C, unites you, everyone, E. So you take the C, the U, and the E, and you get Q. So we have Q broadcast, and under Q broadcast, it used to be called QTV, and then it became Q streaming, and now it's called Q broadcast. But that's under the family of companies that are all Q. We have, and I won't get them all, but Q Energy, Q Security, Q Capital, Q Broadcast, Q Productions, Q Agriculture, and a plethora, fancy word, a big lineup of products and services under the Communication Unites Everyone banner. But to your point, Tommy, talking about censorship, we were born, Communication Unites Everyone was born out of that censorship time. We went back, our original model goes back to 2018, but the business plan was originally written in 2012, but the original business plan, but we really started at the height of COVID, and with the idea of anti-censorship. And I've never used those words before, but that really makes sense. We're the antithesis of censorship, meaning that there's freedom on our platform. And you're not going to get shut down. Now we will shut down for pornography. We will shut down for gore. Somebody taking a knife and trying to show how it feels when you cut your fingers off, gore. We will, we have a standard when it relates to pornography and gore and horror,
Citing
uh,
violence, doxing. Yeah, the
violence, and yeah,
the run of the mill
but in
accepted things.
yeah, but but in terms of but in terms of messaging, you're not going to get shut down if you have controversial message, and that goes from the spectrum of conservative. We will have a lot of podcasters joining our platform who are ultra conservative, who have been kicked off of YouTube for talking about Jesus or talking about religion or talking about what they call the plan of salvation, and they do it on YouTube and they get shut off. Or you have patriots who talk about freedom, or we have a new podcaster coming on who got kicked off of YouTube on a weekly basis because he talked about how to buy guns, how to clean guns, how to store guns in your home, how to have safety latches on your triggers, all of those things. And they wouldn't let him stay up on YouTube. So he's on our platform now, and that's an example of a freedom. It's a patriot who talks about guns who got kicked off of YouTube. So with Communication Unites Everyone or Q Broadcast, we see an opening of communication, and we believe that media is going through a major change right now. People are not watching television like they used to. You're not getting your news. And that's one reason your show is successful and growing, because people want to receive information in a new way. The olds, and I can barely remember, even though I'm an old guy, but I can barely remember Walter Cronkite doing the evening news, or I can certainly remember Tom Brokaw doing the evening news. And I remember everyone flocking to their television because there was no way to record it. There was no way to watch it later. You watched the evening news at 6 o'clock, and that what you had to be if you wanted to know what was going on, other than reading, God forbid, a newspaper that came out 2 days later. Oh, how things have changed. Newspaper or media, it wasn't even called media, it was called television. Okay. And we're going to tell something through this device that is using the visionary sensory devices where you can see and hear. And so we're going to tell people the message through this device. You got to be in front of your end of the receiver to receive the message. Be there at 6 o'clock to get your batch of the propaganda, the news that we're going to feed you at a certain time each day. That's part of the freedom, Tommy. That's gone away. You don't have to be there at a certain time. You don't have to watch a certain broadcast, one or two, Walter Cronkite or Mike Wallace or Tom Brokaw. You don't have to watch them anymore because freedom rings and is winning. And part of that is that the media is not controlled by a handful of people anymore. And here comes our media company that is growing by leaps and bounds because we're promoting just stay away from the pornography, stay away from the gore. But other than that, you're not going to be taken down. And we're working right now with our new, what we call EPG, electronic program guide, or some people call that user experience or channel lineup or whatever. There's a whole bunch of words that mean the same thing. But in the near future, if you want to watch this podcast, you just type in or hit on your remote 554 or whatever channel we assign you, 218, 914. You punch that in on your remote and you go immediately to this podcast. And so that is the new EPG that we're developing right now. But man, oh man, I've watched how Communication Unites Everyone, specifically Q Broadcast, how we've grown in the last 2 years, and it's mind blowing how fast it took off, and we believe that trajectory, is that the right word? Trajectory, that growth curve starts with a T. Trajectory is going to continue. and not diminish. Why? Freedom, not worrying about being taken down, a home for podcasters where they don't have to worry about censorship, and ultra conservative to ultra liberal. We're not going to censor our podcasters as long as they don't cross that line that, like you said, is the accepted standards. Uh, and so, freedom, light, new era of media that is com- completely. And if you look at the cable companies, or even Dish Network or DirecTV, et cetera, they're dying off. Now they don't tell you that, but just Google the subscriber base of Dish TV and its decline, DirecTV decline, broadcast television decline, and so the world of streaming, the world of this fresh idea of getting your news on your terms or your information, not news, that put it in too small of a box. It's not news, but getting your information on your terms is the underlying idea behind our company.
Do you think that there's an actual a benefit to the censorship? And I'll preface it by saying it's censorship, other than being, evil, it does actually kind of help the underdog in that. So let's just say like like Rumble. I've been on Rumble for 5 years. I love Rumble. They've been cool to me. I don't really make enough money there, but whatever. That Rumble, even though I love them and that's where my show is primarily hosted, I would still 10 out of 10 times I would rather use YouTube. The UI is better, the app is better, the content is better. I can download videos, I can find videos from 20 years ago, right? The library's been there since I was in middle school. But Rumble, it's like, well, then what are they offering? If YouTube is provably better, in my opinion, in every category, why do I use Rumble? Well, it's because Rumble doesn't censor, and that is such an enormous. It's not even something like, Twitter used to have a 140 character limit and Rumble has 150. That's not enough for anyone to really care.
Right.
It is so in your face censorship that, it's like Dubai or Abu Dhabi. It's like these places are Las Vegas on steroids. Well, how come they don't outcompete Las Vegas? Well, alcohol is illegal. Well, I mean, what do you it's like Vegas isn't just shiny buildings. It's also debauchery, like it or not. It's just what it is. I think that censorship has actually helped companies like, I mean, I know that's an obvious statement. That's not some Einstein statement, but more than people would imagine, because early on it was a place of refuge for people that got banned for talking about COVID or, Ukraine war or whatever. But as it went on, you started to have gamers, people who had nothing to do with the political sphere, people who could not have cared any less about what is in an mRNA vaccine. They're like, I play racing games and my audience is 10-year-olds. Like, people who couldn't have been more removed from it found themselves saying, dude, I gotta go to Rumble. They are changing the restrictions so fast and loose here that if somebody even comes into the comments and says COVID's a bioweapon, like, my channel might get nixed. So all of a sudden you had people who truly had no concern for anything else. Their head was firmly in the sand. You had
Yeah.
them start to say, "Man, I got to go to Rumble because it's well, it's smaller and it's not as good, but yeah, you know what, guys, it doesn't censor me." And I think that gave Rumble a huge heads up, and then every other just alternative platform out there, BitChute, Brighteon on Q, CloutHub, whatever, they really kind of shot themselves in the foot. Because up until that point, how in God's name would you compete with YouTube? You're not gonna have a better customer service. You're not gonna have more active users. You're not gonna have a more streamlined. Your servers aren't gonna have zero downtime per year. Like, they're always up. YouTube's never down. How in God's name are you
Yeah.
ever gonna compete with that? And be like, How would you ever compete with McDonald's if you opened a fast food restaurant? Well, if McDonald's started something where if you came in that they reserve the right to throw burning oil at you, you might start to go to the next restaurant and be like,
Yeah.
it's more
Yeah.
expensive, it's not as tasty, but man, I don't want to have my face burned off. Like they really
The,
shot themselves in the foot, but I suppose that's kind of the history of mankind is just these shifting
well,
opportunity windows.
people stay with this. I believe in something, and I'm actually writing a book on this about the fear of success. So, they mess up. They reach a point of success, and then they step in the mess. But it's an important point about, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a quick little plug to uh, qbroadcast.com. That's all you got to do is just go to qbroadcast.com and you'll see how you sign up, and it's $59.99 per month and unlimited. We have all the TV channels, all the sports, all the movies. I don't want to say all the movies, but 20,000 movies. Okay, maybe one or two movies exist that we don't have, but over 20,000 movies, over 3,000 live channels, video on demand, all of that for 15. Well, it's going to soon go to $69.99 a month. So depending on when this recording airs, so I'll say $69.99 to be safe. But for all that for $70 a month, where most people, Tommy, are spending around 140 a month on average to get what we have stacked up into just one service. You go to one place. You don't have to go Disney Plus or Hulu, and then let's say, you know, streaming. I won't name names. Streaming, and you stack them up to 170 or 150 a month. With us, you get all of that in one place for 69.99 a month. And no contracts, no long-term deal. If you don't like it, don't pay it. But everyone said to get all the sports, ESPN, NFL, and NBA, Major League Baseball, on and on, all of that for $69.99 a month. No one touches that. But here, that's my commercial for Q broadcast. Now back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so off the commercial is this. Okay, back to what you were saying about how did I did that right in the middle of the show. That was pretty good.
You gotta
Pretty
slide
good
it right.
timing.
Yeah,
Commercial right in the middle
you
of the
gotta
show.
you gotta slide it in. For everyone that doesn't know, you're the president of
So we
Cuba.
got the we
Well,
got the commercial in.
no,
Okay,
I
but
always think
now
it's
back to
sorry.
you.
I always think it's funny though. Some people will say on the show like, I just gotta do this quick plug. I'm like, dude, you're giving me the time out of your day. You're more than allowed to do a plug. People always, I guess I appreciate the manners, but everyone's like, can I plug this? I'm like, yes, yes, absolutely,
That
yes,
was yeah,
yeah,
that was
definitely.
just that was a commercial. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Um, so back to this program. But you raise a good point that YouTube made the creation of Rumble important. Now Rumble is making the creation of Q important. We're like the third generation. Why? What's different? Why are we different than the others in that space? Because of a fancy word that's called revenue share. Okay, so revenue share is a fancy word for commission, meaning that when a podcaster looks at our model compared to Rumble, compared to YouTube, and they make at least 10 times as much money, often more than that, but 10 times as much money as being on the Q platform over being on Rumble or being on YouTube, then they go, wait a minute, this Q's looking pretty good to me because they look at the quote revenue sharing that we have in our model that no one else has. So, so the you talked earlier about how the companies like Twitter, they look at and Facebook, they look at, hey, let's make money out of our platform. Okay, well, you reach a point where you're trying to make too much money and you squeeze out the you squeeze the life out of the podcaster. So we want in our world, we want the podcaster to have life, be successful. We don't care. We're making enough money that we don't need to squeeze every dollar out of the podcaster or out of our people who partner with us. Okay. There's plenty of money for everybody, and we're very generous in our revenue share. So that's the third generation. YouTube made Rumble have to be in existence. Rumble, because they are tight with their commissions or their revenue sharing or their way that the podcaster makes money, has created the necessity for Communication Unites Everyone, Q broadcast, for us to exist. Okay. And so now to the point that we've had to stand up a whole division inside of Q broadcast to handle just the onboarding of podcasters. Um, quick, quick little note about Q back in the day when it was called Q streaming. We started at that point, and I was one of them. We started with 4 people, just 4. And then at our high water mark with employees and contractors, we were at 52. Well, we went from 4 to 52 in a matter of 18 months. So you got to stand up uh, things like a legal division, HR division, accounting division, technical division, marketing division. All of those things had to be given life within 18 months. And so you talk about sleepless nights during that rapid growth, and the requirements on bandwidth and data centers and all of the technical middleware and the back end that it takes to run a complicated media company with all of the content that we have. It was heavy lifting, man. It was heavy lifting, and it's still heavy lifting, but at least we've got enough people. Like now we've got a whole division that does onboarding of podcasters, a whole division that handles the technical problems and the technical growth issues, and around our whole new data center model that we've created. And now we have our security people that are working on firewalls and all the stuff related to cybersecurity, on and on and on and on. Well, that all all started from 4 people in about roughly 2019, to where we kind of did a soft launch in 2020 with a concept, and then a real launch in 2022. And now here we are, in 2025. But uh, that that's the history of Q streaming. And by the way, one reason we changed the name from streaming to broadcast is because when we went on the app stores, Google, iPay, Amazon, etc., all the app stores, they didn't like the word streaming, because there are pirates in that world of streaming who will just literally take content and rebroadcast it. So they said, when they did their research and found out that we're buying our content and that we're legal and we're not pirates, they said, Apple and Google and Amazon said, we want you to change your name from Q streaming to Q broadcast, because you have separated yourself from the pirates. So make that part of your name, that you're not just streaming. So now we've also added the terminology of data streaming, because we also are moving towards, this is like the next generation of our world, is educational streaming on an international basis, where the classroom can be in, I'm making this up, Des Moines, Iowa, but the other side of the classroom where the student is can be in Zimbabwe or Kenya or India, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anywhere in the world, the classroom is there and the teacher can be in Dallas or in Des Moines or in Springfield, Missouri. That's where the teacher is, and so we are working on that model also for educational data streaming on a worldwide basis. That's the next thing we're working on.
It's probably apples and oranges. Maybe it's not. What am I doing wrong? It's I've been at this for almost 6 years. This is episode 1787. I have no employees, and it's still really only the last year just barely making enough to pay rent. I don't know. Maybe I'm comparing. Maybe again, maybe it's apples and oranges, but like I don't know. I just figured it would have like succeeded by now. And by success, I mean, I'm a single guy. I'm 34. I have no wife, no kids, no ex-wife, no pets, and I rent. And it seems like I'm still just like a caveman on the plains of like the Serengeti, just smacking rocks together, trying to make a spark. And it is, if I graph it out, and I do, I keep monthly analytics and have since December 2019. It is growing and it's growing exponentially and all that good stuff. And maybe I'm just greedy or impatient, but yeah, I always figured I don't know.
No, no, you're not greedy and you're not impatient. Um, uh, I wish I, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah, you're good.
reach over here.
You're good.
You just described something that is a topic written by the Harvard Business Review. Okay. And there, over there, there's another bookcase. Okay. So I grabbed that. Okay. Blue Ocean Strategy. Okay. Hardcover, 320 pages. And Blue Ocean Strategy is something that I believe in. Okay. The Blue Ocean Strategy is what you just described. And that is, and by the way, before I launch into this other topic, I'll just tell you, I personally have been a business consultant for 35 years. Okay, so I'm an old guy. In a couple of days from now, I will be 70, maybe by the time this recording airs, I'll be 72 years old. Okay, at being 72 years old, and starting in the world of finance and financial stuff when I was 21, was when went into the insurance business, following my dad's footsteps. When I was 21, went into the insurance business, but it's been financial services, including venture capital, being a stockbroker, certified financial analyst, all of the financial stuff, and being in business development all of those years and helping people like yourself figure out how they can go on a trajectory or how they can go up. Okay. And how they can change their life. That's what I've done my whole life, Tommy, is consulting with people who have an idea or are struggling. And a few years ago, a guy brought me an idea on a napkin and he was concerned, what can we do with this idea? And then a few years later, like 3 or 4 years later, that idea that he brought me on a napkin, we were publicly traded on NASDAQ. We took the idea from a napkin all the way through the 504, the 506, the pink sheets, the baby pinks, the baby, all the way to being fully reported, fully listed on NASDAQ. And when we IPO'd, I had 4 million shares of that company, and we IPO'd at $7 a share. and you can do the math. I had 4 million shares. Okay. So the trouble, though, that I'll just say it, founders stock cannot be traded on the platform. So even though I was 28 million on paper, I still had to figure out how to buy groceries. So that's an interesting dynamic. But anyway, I'll just say that growing concepts, I took that idea from a napkin to NASDAQ. I took Q from an idea that the founder brought to me to now being a multi-million-dollar company. So, like it or don't like it, I got a track record. Okay. And that, so now to this, the red ocean is where you're living right now. You're not in the blue ocean, you're in the red ocean. The red ocean is where all the sharks live, and they all are trying to eat the same piece of meat, and they end up eating each other. And it's the shark infested world of eating each other, and the ocean turns red in the bloodbath of the competition. But blue ocean is where you find a niche, or some people call it niche, where you figure out a way to separate yourself from everybody else that's over here being in the red ocean and just being part of the feeding frenzy of podcasters. Now, I have an idea for you that I will talk to you off air about, okay, about how you can separate yourself. Okay. But that's where, when you figure, and I'm sincere, Tommy, I got an idea that will get you from the red ocean,
I'll make a note
the
of it.
red ocean you're in now, to the blue ocean. Okay. And it's called the Blue Ocean Strategy. And when you research the word strategy, that word has a lot to do with military, planning and going against the enemy, and knowing the enemy is part of strategy. And so when you know how to separate yourself from all of the sharks that are eating each other in the world of podcasters, and just Google, you've probably already done it. You're very well read, you're very smart, but Google how many podcasters there were in 2019, how many there were in 2021, how many there are in 2025. And you talk about a hockey stick. I mean, everybody is podcasting. And I consider doing it myself, in addition to my other jobs. I consider doing it myself because I have a message to tell in the world of finance, and in the world of cryptocurrency, and in the world of tokenization, which I'm an expert. I'm just saying, I'm an expert in tokenization and how to tokenize physical assets and make them digitized in the world of tokens and running on the blockchain. You mean a 72-year-old guy understands block? Yes, yeah, I'm different that way. Anyway, that I want to share with you some ideas about how to get out of the red ocean, and that's where you're at, bro. You're in the red ocean. There's millions. I'll just be conservative and say there's 550,000 people that you're competing with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have to separate yourself out of the 550, 600,000, 800,000, 1.2 million people that are in your space.
Hey there! Are you tired of skyrocketing subscription costs? With Q Broadcast, you get an entertainment package that is unmatched by other providers, with all your favorite content in one affordable bundle. Enjoy a 15-day trial for just $14.99. And if you refer 3 friends and they stick around, your subscription is free. Say goodbye to high-priced subscriptions, contracts, and hassles, and say hello to streaming simplicity with Q Broadcast. This changes everything.
Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with a solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels. Go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
It actually is kind of similar to applying to medical school. And I graduated the University of Georgia, and I got into medical school at the University of Miami. And from what I remember, it was 15,000 people applied and 100 got in. And it wasn't just a random 15,000. It was 15,000 students who had done well enough in college to at least think they could get in. And early on, I just remember thinking like there wasn't a whole lot that I felt distinguished me. And I knew I had one thing, and it was just a literal clinical OCD. I could obsessively compulsive just do something until it was completed. And be that a 4.0 in every class. And I remember studying for the MCAT, and they said like you should study for the MCAT for like 2 months. And I remember thinking, well, what if I did it for like 9 months? And my logic is like, I know that there are people who are objectively smarter than me. It's not a self-deprecating thing. It's just, I just knew some people in college where you talk to them, you'd be like, that guy's got like a 150 IQ. It's nothing. You just go, damn. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, then how do I compete against that? And I was like, well, physics or organic chemistry, what if I just legitimately memorized like 100 pages of notes? I don't mean like studied. I mean memorized. Like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. What if I just did that? And I was like, well, how would I do it? And I broke it down into blocks. And I was like, well, if I did this many hours a day for this many weeks and this many months. And I did, and I ended up scoring in the 96th percentile and getting in to a school where students who were smarter than me didn't get in. I've kind of applied the same thing to podcasting, and it's a little different from getting into med school in that I'd say I have two things. The first was the one I had getting into med school, which was just brute force. I've been, one show or two shows a day, 1,787 episodes since December 12th, 2019. It's not something you can do in a week. It's just something like, can you stay on the road forever? Just keep walking. And most people, that start podcasts, they quit after a month, maybe 3 months. Maybe they stick with it for 6 months. I know a couple guys that stuck with it for a year, 2 years. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this guy's keeping with it. And then eventually they throw in the towel. And okay, so it's the Calvin Coolidge quote, like persistence has always and will always solve all the problems of mankind. And then there's another aspect where it's then, well, then not only do you have to show up every day and just work harder and longer than everyone else, but it's also what is it that you're delivering? It doesn't matter if you're delivering a crappy show. If you do 1,787 shows, but they're all crappy, I mean, maybe you'll get a pat on the back like, hey, you stuck with it, but I don't want the product. It's awful. That's kind of where, like we talked on the phone earlier and to kind of beforehand at the show, that's where the whole whiteboard idea is that how can I make this different than everything else? And it's, well, you'd have to make it a realistic conversation. It's, you see on the news all the time or interviews, they have written questions. And if they're not written, it's very clear that they're memorized and they're talked about beforehand. And I understand that's important for some things. Heads of state, members of the Pentagon. You probably don't want me going out there freewheeling talking about why we're bombing Iran. I'd be like, you probably
Yeah.
want someone a little more buttoned up. Okay. Or, CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You probably don't want someone. You probably want someone very clean, cold cut. I get it. But in terms of something worth listening to in a sea of infinite podcasts, you have to not just work harder than everyone. You do have to do that, but you got to offer something new or something novel. And if not new and novel, at least offer something that on a percentage basis is not offered everywhere else. And that's kind of been the two things I stick with is just keep going. I mean, truly keep walking until your bones break. And then also make it unique. And how do you make it unique? It's actually counterintuitive. You don't do anything out of the ordinary. If you try to be something, we all know what the news cadence is, right? You did it earlier. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. We all know
Yeah.
what that is. It's the news cadence. It's the thing's called the Atlantic accent from the 20s.
Yeah.
You have to just do something novel. And when what is novel, you don't come into it with notes. Come into it, that doesn't mean be apathetic. That doesn't mean show up late, not know what's going on. But what it does mean is you and I both come in here, and where is it gonna go? It's infinite timelines. You go, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea where it's gonna go. And thus far, those two, I don't know, mission statements, guidelines, I don't even know what you'd call them. They've served me well, and I know if I keep at it, I know it will work. Just plotting the numbers, it will work. It's not growing linearly; it's growing exponentially. But I think that's also probably part of what makes me who I am is just impatient. I want it now. I want it faster. I want it better. Um, but yeah, I think that's kind of like the unsexy answers. Like you just got to work harder. And
Well, and you're right. You got to work harder. That's true. But there's another element to that, Tommy, that I would throw in that I'll define this later with you in a phone call or on a private conversation. But there's another element that has to do with becoming an expert in a niche or in a segment that is underserved. And so that also is a part of the formula. But the third part of it is keeping the lights turned on and keeping the ability to have electricity
Keep the show
in
going.
your
Yeah.
house. Okay. And so you have to keep enough revenue coming in that you can stay on the air. Okay. And part of that, and that's where back to a commercial for Q broadcast. That's why we're growing, because the podcasters look at how much money they can make with us. We've got a couple podcasters right now that are making around $500,000 a year off of smaller podcasts. Okay. And so their audiences are not in the millions. Okay. They're not, Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson. They're not at that realm, but they're smaller podcasts, probably in the bottom third of maybe touching between third and a half of audience percentages. But I'm talking about a percentage of stacked up of all the podcasters. But my point is there that they're making tremendously what they make off of us far exceeds selling potions or lotions or whatever they're selling from their affinity marketing that they do on their podcast, sponsored by, or all of those things. When they see our revenue model, it's completely different. And now that's why we've had to, like I already said, we had to stand up or set up a whole division in the company to handle the revenue share and the new podcasters. And we had to standardize that, meaning have an application, what's the format of your show, what's your audience size, and if we're giving, that's a key word, GIVING, if we're giving away channels at this time. In the future, near future, there'll be like $500,000 to get a channel on our platform. Where for right now, we're giving them away. We're not going to give a channel to a podcaster that has an audience of 50. Now, we may say, God bless you. We like what you're doing. You have a good idea, but economically, we can't. It cost us around $500,000 to set up that channel for you. We're not going to do that for you for 50 subscribers. You got to have enough of an audience. And Tommy Carrigan has enough of an audience, okay? And other podcasters in your space have enough of an audience. But my point of talking to you today, Tommy, is not to talk about why you should be on Q Broadcast. My point of talking to you today is for you, sir, to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Okay. And and how can I lose $30 million and be happy and be on my feet and be where I'm not depressed? And how do I do it? Because I know I'm going to get it back. God gave me the formula of how to do it. If you do it once, you do it again. No big deal. Okay. And it's fun. It's more fun the second time around. I'll tell you that, honestly. Why is it more fun? Because I know who I am this time.
Mhm.
Other time, the first time I went through it, I was a plastic version, a credit card version of myself. I wasn't the real bank. I was just a paper mache, empty shell of who I really am, paper mache. Now, as I'm doing the next 30 million that I'm on path for to replace the other 30 million I lost, this time I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
I know who I am. And that changes. It's a lot more fun when you know who you are.
I would agree with. I'd say like the first quote, I guess, big endeavor. I mean, I've been working out since I was 10, but that's not as much. I'd say getting into medical school is the first like that took 4 years to do, and I was a bad student leading up to it. It's not like I was some A student. Doing that was very good in that I learned like the importance of long-term goals. If you just stick with it, if you just keep pushing through, there are miracles, but it's like there's no what's the quote? There's no such thing as luck. There's when opportunity meets preparation. It's you just keep pushing, and I got in, and I never thought I was going to be able to do that. The second time around, I'd say is this podcast, and I've now been doing this longer than it took for me to get into med school, almost 50% longer. But yeah, no, I would say it's still hard, it's still scary, it's all that. I'm so much more confident in who I am and what I used to feel like I had to explain myself when I was like studying instead of partying. I'd be like, well, I want to be a doctor, and I just don't know how worth it is to go out and get drunk. Versus now, it's like how come like I don't drink, I don't party, I don't really have much of a social life. And it's like, why do you do this, man? I love working. I just
Yeah.
I love it. Shut up.
Yeah.
I'm a lot more at peace with it, and knowing who I am, and also knowing that you never really know how it's gonna work. It's just the longer you push, and on all the goods, do the right thing. Don't stab people in the back. Don't. There's always corners to cut, but that they will eventually come back in many folds over to get you. But just to keep going forward and working hard, and I mean, it's awesome, and it's also awful. I mean, it's the Teddy Roosevelt quote: "By far and away, the best thing about this life is working hard towards something worth working hard towards." It's like
Well,
it is
and
awesome.
so how many people that are 72 years old work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day? I mean, that's me. And okay. And then when I'm not working, which in my world consists of a lot of Zoom calls, and in our platform we use Dialpad as a competitor of Zoom. We think Dialpad's better, but I know right now we're on Zoom. But we use Dialpad, and I'm on Dialpad calls all day long, constantly. But now my fun is as we expand internationally, and I'm kind of the guy that's in charge of opening up other markets. We're working right now with folks in Jerusalem, in London, in Italy, in South Vietnam, in Australia, Cayman Islands. And so I'm working all kinds of weird hours all the time because I'm on all these dial pad calls around the world. Okay. And how many people do that at 72 and years of age? Okay, so to say I'm driven, yes, I'm driven, but it's also I can never imagine myself. Okay, let me just say it this way. On a personal note, um, I'm right now living in southern Arkansas near Hot Springs in the most beautiful country you could ever imagine. I mean, it is picturesque
God's
beyond,
country.
and so we live 5 minutes from one of the most beautiful lakes in the country called Lake DeGray. When we moved here about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, bought a nice boat, got a slip in the marina, and found out which hotspot worked best on the lake because I knew I was going to be taking Zoom calls in the boat. So I switched my carrier to AT&T because they work the best on the lake. And so, but anyway, the plan was, and I rigged it up where I could have and I could be fishing and being on Zoom calls and people didn't even know it. Okay. But now, Tommy, I haven't been on the boat in a year. So we came here to this beautiful lake, beautiful southern Arkansas near Hot Springs and the Ouachita Mountains. Incredible stuff, incredible scenery. And my wife says, "You're in that office all the time." She's outside, she's in the living room or the family room or someplace, and says, why are we in the most beautiful
Yeah.
country in the world where you're always in the office?
Yeah. What's the point?
And so my point is, I'm trying to figure out how to slow down, but I work 7 days a week, and I've got 3 books I'm writing. And in the midst of writing my books, when I'm not on a Zoom call, I'm writing because I want what is bottled up inside of me to reach the young generation like you. You are either either you may not like it, but you become my audience of what I have experienced for 35 or 40 years of development. You, at your age, are the right age, the right mindset, the right kind of person to absorb what has taken me 40 years to figure out. And so that's what keeps. Let me just tell one more thing, and then I know we've gone long here,
You
but
can
let me just
keep
say,
going. I got
let
nothing
me
doing. Keep going.
well, let me just say this recently, and I'm not going to say his name at this point, but I have become friends with a wonderful man, wonderful guy who sold his company, and his walk away part of the company when he walked away was $700 million. Okay, and so in the world of understand, and because I've been in that world, I'm not. Anyway, I'll keep it about him, not about me. Okay, so $700 million, humble, smart. And I asked him recently, and he lives on the other side of the ocean, but we were in a meeting together in the United States. And I said, "What drives you? You don't have to work. You don't have to be flying to the United States to have meetings. What drives you?" And he said, quickly, he didn't hesitate. He said, "Growth." I said, "Grow." And I mean, before I even finished the sentence, he said, "Growth." And then he said, "Growing people and growing companies. I want to see people grow, and I want to see companies grow. I don't need the money. I just want to do it because I want to bless and help people grow. I don't have $700 million. I'm on my way back up to 30 million, but I don't have a lot of money. But I will say that I am also motivated by growing companies. Now, I happen to be part owner of 2 or 3 companies. And so I want to see those companies grow, but also want to see individuals like Tommy Carrigan grow. And you, sir, to be the best version of yourself you can be, which includes understanding why did you sacrifice so much to go to med school. You don't have to answer this question, but why did you sacrifice so much and now you're not a doctor? Okay, same thing happened with my brother. Okay,
Yeah.
Dan, he's a double PhD. He's a brilliant, he's a brilliant mind. Okay. But he was in med school, and then he took his life and sent it on a whole different path. And now he's in charge of about 27 nonprofit organizations. He's also the pastor of a big church. He's also in what one could call working for the kingdom of God. That's his world now. And he left med school in the middle of med school. So I'm that's my own brother. So
Yeah, no,
I get
yeah,
it.
I've talked about it a zillion times in the show. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to do it. I've always liked medicine. I've always liked biology, but I think a lot of it was also I was scared. I realized, I'm in college. It was my sophomore year, and I was like, in 3 years, I'm going to be out in the real world. Without you're in school, you have loans. It's not quite the real world. And I was like, well, I just want a job that I'll always have. I'll always have job security, and it, pays well enough, and you're respected, and it's something I like, and you do the right thing. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of checks all the boxes, and I did it, and I also like the challenge. But as I got farther and farther along, I realized that I really wasn't happy. Like I was proud of what I was able to do, but I wasn't happy. And then I think my last semester of college, I remember I saw this quote from Maya Angelou, and it was, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story." And I just remember thinking, like, is this what I want to do? I have a long life ahead of me, and I really wasn't sure that it is. And so it finally dawned on me, and I talked to both. I had two uncles, both of whom were doctors, and they both kind of said something along the lines like, "If you're smart enough to get into medical school, or you're smart enough to be a doctor, you're smart enough to make money doing something you like, something along those lines. Like if you figured out that puzzle, you can figure out another puzzle." And it seemed like a revolutionary idea to me. That I was like, what if I took all the hard work? I guess I had always just written off doing something you like as it must be fun and it must not really make money. But I was like, well, why can't I just take the hard work of becoming a doctor and put it towards any whatever, knitting, blowing glass, like whatever your thing, and enjoy what I do. I'm only here once, as far as I know. Life is short. And so, I got in, and then I sent him basically a thank you, but no thank you. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I wanted to go to pharmacy school, but I was like, I know I want to be my own boss. A couple months after I graduated, my older brother committed suicide. He was 27 years old. I was 23. That kind of expedited it to where I think had I not decided not to go, I probably still wouldn't have gone, because that was just, I mean, if you can imagine, it's just, you're blindsided.
Oh,
And that,
yeah,
yeah,
terrible.
that,
Oh,
that messed me up for a couple of years. So I was 23. That was April 2014. I was really just kind of spiraling for 2 years till around summer 2016. Moved home with my parents. They lived in Maryland. So I moved from Georgia up to Maryland at age 26. Moved away from all my friends, lost most of my friends. Me and the girlfriend broke up, blah, blah, blah. And was at home for just an eternity, 5 years, age 26 to 30, 31. It's a long time to live with your parents. And then the last year there, I started the podcast and haven't looked back. And it's been a very long path, and I really wouldn't change any of it. Obviously, wish I still had my brother, but I've learned a lot from it. But the very long answer is even had I not lost my brother, I still think I would have ended up on this road, because it's less of like you could have been a doctor and more of, I think it's the confidence of going, well, if I can achieve that, what else can I achieve? Well, if you could be a doctor, you could probably also be a PhD doctor. No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean,
yeah.
if you can figure out that puzzle in this set of variables, you have 4 years to do this many things and do this. It's a video game. Well, man, wouldn't even higher? What's higher than Harvard Med School? What if you just got to do something you wanted to do, make money doing it, and then what if you also didn't have a boss? Each of those on their own are cool ideas. You get to do what you want to do. You have a really cool hobby. You get to make money. I'm an investment banker. I don't like my job, but I make money. I'm my own boss. Okay, but I don't like what I'm doing and I don't make money. I just started thinking, like, what if you could do all three? Like, what if you could do, and it probably wouldn't work. But what if it did? What would that be like? And, as difficult as this is, man, I've been doing this for almost 6 years. There genuinely is not a day that goes by that at some point I don't just stop and go, this is amazing. And it's also something where I go, if I get diagnosed with cancer today and they go, you got 6 months, no part of me, and I can actually say this and I could pass a lie detector test, no part of me goes, oh, I wish I had known I only had 6 months. I would have done so many things. No, I have 6 months. I go, hey, I'm so proud of what I did. That was so cool. That was such a cool thing. So I think that's what it is. And it's, obviously I'd like to make a ton of money, but, the primary thing is like, yeah, just make enough to keep the bills paid. But I think that's what it is I like working. I don't think I'd ever be happy just lounging around. And, this is a glove that sort of fits it all. It's creative. It's like you said, learn, know something today, know something at the end of the day that you didn't know. Every day, it's literally in my to-do list. Listen to an hour of an audiobook. Right now, I'm listening to Project Azorian, which is about the CIA lifting up a sunken Russian sub in the 80s under the guise of it was a commercial shipping, but super cool. Whether or not I'm going to get the authors on, whether or not the authors are still alive. Before this, last month I read a book on Grover Cleveland, President Grover Cleveland, because I knew nothing about him, and I get to do that every day. I factor it into my work, where if I can, I get the author on. If I can't, well, I can still mention the book. Hey, I just mentioned the book to you.
Yeah.
It fits everything. I get to learn. I get to do cool. I think I get to do the right thing. I have on veterans that run these nonprofits where they use certain psychedelics or certain, unorthodox therapies for suicide. They know suicide better than everyone, right? 22 people a day. I get to give a voice to that. I get to have people come on that are trying to raise awareness for this, or so but those are, more serious things. And I also get to do episodes like this,
Oh.
or, you called me earlier. You're like, what are we talking about today? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like that's awesome. I get to have discussions where most people go, yeah, I had a really cool discussion with a friend at a bar last week, but I get to do that every single day. And that's my
Well,
job. So
and,
very long
and
answer.
no, that's really, really, really cool. And what you've described, and I'm not going to go into it now, but there's a big, they mix up the words joy and happiness. Happiness and joy are two different things. And what you're describing is joy,
Mm-hmm.
an inner joy
Yes.
of doing what you want to do, which creates a feeling of fulfillment. And that happiness is just superficial.
It's not real.
Happiness is yeah, it's based on things that are outside, and just like you can get a new car and you feel happy for a minute, but then you wait a minute, where's the joy that I thought I would have when I got a new car? Because joy is deeper than happiness. So man, I don't want to go. That's
No,
that's
it's 100% correct. I mean, and I still have happy moments. It's so cool when you get a big guest. Yeah, let's go. Like those are fun. Those are fun little desserts in life, right? Oh,
yeah,
or you got new iMac, like it's awesome, but like it's not gonna last. The
yeah.
joy is something where it's like, man, I've built this thing and it works. Like, dude, that is a level of just, it really is. There's a peace inside where you go, I did it. I don't care. I don't have to prove it to anyone else. Right now, I mean, I could look up and see an asteroid coming down, and I would just be like, yeah, that was awesome.
Well, you told me before we went into live. I mean, before you hit the record button, you said, just be yourself and say who you are. Well, who part of who I am is that, get my handle, that line right there is a lineup of Bibles. Okay. A Bible collection. And there's a scripture that says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. That's in the book. Okay. The joy of the Lord. So you absorb the joy from the Lord and you get extra strength. It's like, the power to do the supernatural, the power to do great things comes from the feeling of joy, and the joy comes from the Lord. So it's a formula, part of the formula. And I have a big formula of success, and that's part of it. But the joy of the Lord, it comes from, you can call it creator, creative being, the universe, whatever name that you particularly want to put on that. But from my world, Tommy, it means the Lord. In my case, his name is Jesus. But the Lord gives me joy, and that joy gives me strength to work 7 days a week at age 72, the strength to not go fishing, the strength to not have hobbies that most people working in the wood shop and making wooden bowls or selling birdhouses at the fair. Great. If that makes you happy or gives you joy, build birdhouses. But that ain't going to work for me, bro. That ain't going to work for me.
Yeah, and I've I say that to myself every morning. One of the first things I say, last thing I do before I go to sleep is say a prayer and say some things I'm grateful for. And every morning I'd say something I'm kind of grateful for, and one of them every day is like I'm legitimately happy to have a brain that functions and a job to do. I just enjoy it. I really,
And I'm right there with you. I mean, and I'm to the point where there's a lot of people my age whose brains are starting to shut down, and I thank God that my brain is on hyperdrive, and I'm more creative. I have more creative energy, music, writing, creativity than I've ever had. But at the same time, I got the music and the writing. I'm also analytical in the point that I, function as a certified financial analyst or a CFO, sort of chief financial officer in a company. And I got the accounting side and have the creative side. But the point any of that is that my brain at 72 years old is not cloudy, not messed up, not misfiring where I can't put cohesive sentences together, or if I need a word to finish a sentence, whether that be a $50 word or a penny worth of a word, it comes, the vocabulary is there. And so I'm not bragging, it's all a gift. It's all
oh
a
yeah,
gift that got downloaded. It's not because I'm cool. It's a gift. So all I can say is thank you, universe. Thank you, God. Thank you for giving me the gift of a superior brain.
oh yeah.
Now, if he could just work on this big
Give me some
belly, I'd be
abs. Yeah,
happy.
no, I mean, people have always said that I have like, I always get two compliments, and it's that I have just a steel trap for a memory, and that I have the ability to speak in analogies. And I just, you know what? God gave me a little attribute boost, and it's like, hey, I get to use it for something. I'm not gonna say every episode I do is some like noble endeavor. Sometimes it's just me and friends laughing, but you get to use it towards something cool, and it's
Well,
you're put in the game, and you get to go play the game and work hard, and it's a great thing, man. It's a good thing to have work worth doing. I've right after my brother died, I essentially took 2 years and did like nothing. Like I didn't have a job. I kind of did nothing. I was miserable. It was a binary
right,
existence. I'm either drunk and high or I'm not. Versus now,
yeah,
it's I stopped drinking a year and a half ago. Dude, I don't care. I have more fun out of like tracking the numbers on my pod. When you get like a 5% revenue boost, you're like, let's
yeah,
go. And it's,
yeah,
I feel good from working out, not from alcohol. Like, yeah, I have fun going. I got a full night's sleep. I like tracking calories. I was like, we were talking about books earlier. I started tracking how many books I read several years ago just to see, and we will see. I started in, I think, summer 2021, and now, yeah, so 184 books in 4 years. And yeah, I keep a list of them, and I listen every day, and I write down the author, and some of them have nothing to do with anything. UFOs in the White House, kind of boring. The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, that was a lot cooler, and then books in between. But then I
yeah,
get to take these things and get like the authors on, and if I don't get the authors, I can still mention the books,
yeah.
and it's a
And
pretty cool system to be a part of.
no, that's awesome, man. I all I could say is it don't change, don't give up, don't stop what you're doing. I just feel that I can talk to you uh like I keep using the terminology off air, but that's because I used to be a radio
No,
producer.
that's still the correct terminology
Yeah.
off air. I
And
use it
so
at least.
so so I could talk to you about that. So I do have a hard
Yeah,
stop
yeah,
here in
yeah.
a
Well,
couple of
yeah, we'll
minutes,
wrap it
Tommy,
up.
but
We'll wrap it up.
but I just, man, this has been fun. It's been great, and hope that I don't want, I just want to say that I never, ever, ever want to come across as egotistical or that I'm the
You're good.
smartest guy in the block. But hey, I'm an Indiana farm boy, grew up on a farm, driving a tractor and planting corn and taking soybeans to the elevator, what we used to call the elevator. Okay, and then my dad went in the insurance business, and then I followed him in the insurance business, and then he went into real estate development, and we were building houses. And as soon as I was able to swing a hammer and drive nails, this is before they had pneumatic bang, 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 bang guns that you put down subfloors or you put down roof decks. You had to drive all those nails by hand. And so grew up driving nails, driving tractors, and following my dad's steps in the insurance business. And I over on the wall of my office, there's a picture of my dad that I look at constantly. It's right up the top of my computer monitor, and he's in my mind. This is my dad's wedding ring, and when I look down and I see my hand, see my dad's hand. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so I follow his wonderful example. And I have three brothers. I'm the oldest of four boys, four young, now we're old, four old men. And, but we're still following dad's footsteps, all four of us. And so, my sincere wish and hope is that I don't ever come across arrogant. I don't ever want to come
Dude, not at
across
all. Not at all.
like a know-it-all. But I've been there, done that, and got the t-shirt and wore out the t-shirt. But my sincere condolences of you losing your brother like that. I cannot, with me being so close to my brothers, I cannot even imagine the kick in the gut, the kick in the groin that would have been. And so I'm so sorry you had to
Thank you,
go
sir.
through that.
He was the oldest of four, and I've four boys. Yeah, same as you.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, four Irish
So
Catholic boys.
yeah, so the four of us grew up to close and all that. So
Yeah.
Tommy, we'll do it again, brother.
Oh yeah,
We'll do it
man, that was
again.
fun. Yeah, I was gonna say, come across as arrogant. Trust me, and the only people that come across as arrogant and egotistical on this show are not the people who are concerned that they come across as arrogant and egotistical. They don't. They'll never give that a moment's pause. They'll let you know that they're the smartest person in the room. They will let you. There's no irony. There's no. Trust me. It's few and far between. And even with them, if you get somebody with ego and arrogance, you can kind of make it fun. Just feed into it. What do you? I'm already here. What am I gonna? Clearly, this guy thinks he knows everything in the world. What do I care? Might as well get some
Yeah.
fun out of
Yeah,
it. Just keep poking him
yeah,
along.
just
Yeah, I mean, why
just
not?
just play into the irony
Yeah, I'm not
and have
hurting
fun.
anybody. He's here. He
Have
clearly
fun
likes
with it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, play with him.
Just play into it.
Yeah, no, you're
All
good,
right,
dude.
bro. I got to run. So thanks for everything, and thanks for the time
Yeah.
and the great conversation.
No, that was awesome. And I'll shoot you a text. And if you, I mean, I still got some work to do today. But if you want to talk sometime today, you said talk off air. We can do it whenever you want.
Well, actually, tomorrow would be better. I've got but today is already packed all the way to the
Gotcha.
around midnight tonight. So I've got several hours
You're good.
of nonstop.
You're good. I'll shoot you a text. We'll do something tomorrow.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll catch up later.
All right, dude. That was fun. I
Okay.
appreciate your time, man.
Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I will send this to you when it's up. And till next time, thank you
Recording
so much.
stopped.
Take care, everybody. Peace.